think we're live. Hey guys,
Hey.
if you can see us, okay, yeah, I'm checking right now. Okay,
Um,
seems to be working. Hey guys, we had some serious technical difficulties. Zoom was not obeying me today, so I had to shut everything down and try again, but here we are, we made it work. I'm sitting here chatting with Jennifer Shultz. She is an amazing photographer from Lincoln, Nebraska, right? Lincoln.
you
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. Okay. I was like, for a minute, I was like, wait a minute. Did I knew it was Nebraska, but I totally spaced on exactly where.
Yeah.
So tell everybody a little bit about you before we kind of dive in. And you guys, by the way, before she kind of starts, say hi, let us know that you can see us. And then of course, as we go along, just ask any questions that you need to. Okay. So
Yeah.
tell us about you.
Well, hi, Brittany. My name is Jennifer. I am a high school senior photographer. Probably not surprising to you to say that in this message thread, but I own my own studio in Lincoln, Nebraska, home of the Cornhuskers and flyover country. Those are the two things that we are known for in my neck of the woods. I serve anywhere between about 50 and 75 senior families, each class of kids. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go on, but I tend to work with the young men as much as I do with the girls, and have slowly built my business for the last 5 or 6 years. And recently, although not the most optimal timing, recently signed a lease on my first studio space that I moved into about 3 years ago. So looking forward to
Super exciting.
this crazy uncertainty that we're all kind of finding ourselves in right now.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, and we might pause,
Opportunity to
we
reach
might
out and talk to
freeze.
you guys
There
about
we
that.
go. Yeah, so if we pause,
There we go.
sorry guys, everyone on Earth is on Zoom. So we're gonna make it work. Gonna make it work. Yeah, so you can always Deb says, go Jennifer. So Deb and Jennifer are both in my mastermind group. That's how I've gotten to know Jennifer over the last several months. And I figured this would be a really amazing thing to bring her on because like she said, she's amazing at everything, but she's got like this really cool niche of these awesome guy clients. And we were talking about that over a couple of our calls, and we were discussing about how even though I shoot mainly girls, and I not really on purpose, but that's just kind of the way I fell into it. I still do, I've seen in the last couple of years, this big uptick on families. First of all, moms kind of always have wanted that to happen, but I've seen an uptick in the guys wanting it to happen. And so we were talking about that, and she said that she's seeing the same thing. So I wanted to, just kind of pop on and discuss that because I think it's probably going to be, more of a trend as well. Don't you?
I agree. I would absolutely agree. I've seen a huge uptick in sales from my my young men, my guys, and it's kind of interesting. It's not about making the sale. We know that we're in the business of serving people and meeting them where they are. But there's something really special when you can win over a mom of a senior guy, and it kind of eluded me the first couple of years as I was watching it happen. I should start off by telling you I have 2 teenagers. I have an almost 17 and almost 19-year-old, and I have a guy and I have a girl. And so, working with them both, I joked with Renee earlier that asking a parent to choose between her kids that's just not a thing. But, that's what made me realize that it's just like as parents of senior guys, as the clients that are the parents of senior guys, they want these amazing products for their guys as much as they do for their girls. But there's something really special about serving them in a way when you can kind of present them with a wonderful portrait of their guy. They don't expect it. If that's really the best way to phrase it. I think our girls are a lot more comfortable with cameras. They're a lot more comfortable putting images of themselves out there. And then a parent, I can show them a beautiful portrait of their senior girl and they will be won over. They will be in love. But when you can do that same thing with their guys and with their sons, it's just a really, really wonderful feeling. And because of that, I think parents are just as willing to put stuff up on the walls, to print those portraits, to do those things. We want to serve them in that way. And sales have definitely been up in that kind of genre over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. And I mean, as far as like falling into it or marketing for that, right? So did you always like, did you start out saying I want to shoot guys, or you know what I mean? Like how did that look for you as far as like the evolution of having so many male clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, I didn't start off with any intention of working with one gender over another. I just have always kind of done both. I do think that sometimes we tend to put out what we want to attract. So what we're putting on our websites, what we are putting on social media, what we're even kind of communicating to clients one-on-one. I think, a lot of times I've seen some people in my industry that do want to only focus on guys or only focus on girls. They're putting that out there. For
Yeah.
me, I don't really think I had any intentionality about it from the beginning at all. I just always worked with both, and I always kind of marketed both, and I would show both. I didn't even really realize that I had fallen into more of a niche of working with young men until I had a mom call me last year. And she was looking for information about my next senior class. And the first thing she said to me was, "Hi, I heard you're the person to call to work with a difficult boy." And
You're like, oh, that's news to me.
I said, "Really?" She said, "Well, I heard from so-and-so who heard from so-and-so who heard from so-and-so that if you were able to get that child to smile and be
Wow.
natural in front of the camera, that you were absolutely the one that I needed to call." So I think it's a combination of I never really kind of singled one out from the beginning of what I was putting out, but then it just goes into truly word of mouth and referrals. And that was happening without me really even realizing it.
Mm,
I never approached my senior guys differently than I approached my senior girls.
hmm. Oh wait, I think we
Everybody
froze for a
to be,
second.
uh,
Hang on, hang on.
so, um,
Okay,
you
yeah,
don't
just
ever
repeat
want
that.
to kind of force. Oh, I would say they just want to be heard. They want to be seen. Our
Yes.
seniors don't want to be forced into somebody that they're not or something that they're not. And so a lot of ways I kind of just approached it just very naturally. But I guess over time it's kind of gotten out that I can get just about anybody to smile
You can
about.
work with difficult boys.
And I mentioned this to you earlier. I think sometimes a parent's perception of their child's personality is very different. I can tell you in the last 5 or 6 years of working with a lot of young men, I cannot tell you one that I appeared to be difficult or appeared to me to be difficult.
Right.
So I
Right.
think, a lot of times they're not going to behave when a mom pulls out a camera, my own son included.
Hmm.
I've never had a kiddo who I felt was difficult. So I just thought
Yeah.
that was funny.
That is so funny. I know. I think, I mean, like I said too, like I've heard moms say that about my female clients too, right? So like there's there's a lot of leeway with that, and I think that's really kind of cool that that is part of what we do too, right? We get to show parents in general a side of their kids that they probably haven't seen or don't see often,
For sure.
and it seems like it's a little bit maybe even more dramatic with the guys, right? Because like you said, they're not used to maybe having them comply with those requests or get that natural looking smile. And that's the thing too, like don't you find, and that's what one of the things I wanted to ask you and kind of talk about today is um you know to me, from what I've seen, I want to see if this is the same as what your experience has been. I feel like the guys that I have shot, especially in the last like 2 to 3 years, really want the same kind of thing that these girls want, right? Like they want to look good. They want those pictures to look good. Like there's been a couple of times where I've shot a picture and I'm like, okay, and this guy might, he's like lacrosse or a football player or just like total sports, right? And I'm like, okay, this is a little modeling, right? This is crossing over into a little bit more styled that he probably is going to want, but I'm going to shoot it anyway because it's a killer shot and I
Right.
really like it and I want to post it and the mom's probably going to love it. And the guys are reposting the crap out of those. Like they really don't want to say that they want that, but they really appreciate. Have you seen that as
Oh,
well?
absolutely. Yeah, no, they don't want to admit that they want
Yeah.
to be into social media. So hands down, that's number one. The guys they are not ever going to tell you they want the awesome shot to post on Instagram, but they
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah, they
Um,
do.
And when you can get that, whether it is that kind of artistic sports, I do a lot of sports imagery. I do a lot of, off-camera flash, on-location lighting, a lot of things that add to those sports imagery. It's always the guys' favorites if they happen to be an athlete. But even in that moment when I'm taking it, they downplay it.
Mm-hmm.
That they're just kind of like not really into it.
Yeah.
I work a lot with the guys and the girls. I joke with them. I'm like, I'm not an art hoarder. I start off just like this weird term I came up with. But I start every session like that. And
Yeah.
I just, the best way for us to work together is for you to kind of just see a little bit of what I'm seeing. So, ask me to take a look at the back of the camera at any time. And a lot of times they'll even play that cool. They're like, no.
No, I don't.
I trust you. Fine. And then, we'll get a couple. I usually always do my first series. I'll kind of work through, 3 or 4 basic poses, and then I'll stop and I'll put the camera in their hands and I'll let them scroll. And I know that's not everybody's thing. I appreciate that. For me, I have found, especially with the guys, that when they see that vision of what they feel like, it's just, okay, so I'm going to have them posed and they're down here on steps, right? And they're leaning forward and their shoulders are down and they're just looking really just kind of like, rough.
Yeah.
I can see in their face instantly that they don't know how that looks. They know how they feel, but they don't know what we're seeing. And when I have the opportunity to show the guy that early on and they can see it, then that trust level is just, it's just there instantly. That wall comes down. And so then my next set of poses where it's a little bit more like play with your hair, take that piece of, peach fuzz you forgot to shave right here and give it a little that's another one I'll do to just kind of get that pose. If I would have started off with that, before they had been able to see kind of what
Totally. Oh wait, you froze. Yeah. Hang on. We just
I froze.
It just, it needs to breathe a minute. Okay.
But yeah, I think that's probably my number one piece of advice is let them see it. Let them see what
good. Yeah.
Because ultimately they do want to post. They want to have that great image to share. They are, just as proud of their accomplishments that senior year. They're into senior Sundays. They're into all that stuff. They just might not tell you from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good point. And I think that we're going to probably see a lot more of this too. And I think I mentioned this on one of our calls. I feel like one of the main reasons might be TikTok because you see all the TikTok boys, right? And, now it's become, and there's a lot of terms for them that I'm not going to say here, but, that the kids call each other, not me. But, there is like this trend of guys being on camera more, being funny, but being cute and like owning all these different parts of themselves so I really feel like in the next year or two, we're going to see a lot more, like an uptick of guys wanting to showcase that more. And I think that we as photographers have a really great opportunity to do that because, like I said, I've always mainly shot girls, but not on purpose, but I still have guys that I shoot every year. And the ones I shoot, I love. Like Jamie and I are always talking, like we walk away from the sessions, we're like, that was so fun. Like we love shooting with guys. And so, I say all the time to photographers, if it's something that you want to do, I think that now is a really great time to start looking at ways to market that, to understand it, to really kind of get a handle and, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this today, just to let people know about that. And so that was a really good point. And I think that you had mentioned earlier at another point too, how, well, the big differences, there's a lot of differences, but the big difference that you said was that they want the same. She told me this earlier. I'm going to paraphrase it and you can totally go with it after that. But they want like the same kind of thing, but they want it in like half the time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Or even a third.
Yeah.
It's not to just say that like, guys have a shorter attention span. I don't know that that's it. I just think they want to be efficient. Everything that they do is just, it's all about efficiency. So if you can get out and like I have 2 different session levels for my seniors. I have kind of a basic, more classic session, and I have a senior experience. Rarely do I have the guys book the senior experience. They don't want the extra hour. They don't want the extra location. They don't want anything extra. They want you to be artistic and awesome and just done in an hour. And that's kind of putting a generalization on it a little bit. But as we were talking kind of prior to this call, I just felt like it was so fitting with what we're seeing ourselves in now, with just this big uncertainty of what is going to happen over the next couple of months. Senior photography is a valued part of our industry. Parents maybe even more so after this, and watching a whole class of kids who has maybe missed out on a few milestones. This is not something that they're necessarily going to want to pass or skip next year for the class of 2021, but it's possible that we are all going to be asked to work in a more condensed amount of time. And so if you are a senior photographer that serves people in my part of the country, which is primarily a mid-June through October season, with yearbook deadlines that we have here in the Midwest. And let's say you are somebody that serves 30 to 40 families over the course of 4.5 months. Well, if we can't get things going and we can't reopen until August, you might be serving the same amount of families, maybe even a few more, in a much shorter amount of time. And so I'm all for that shorter session. I'm all for my guys that want that efficiency, and just kind of open up to work with even more of them, I think. But yeah, they don't want necessarily sunsets and fields and shooting until all hours of the night with the bugs. That's not for them. They just, they want to get in, get out, and have it be just freaking awesome.
I totally agree. I know. Most of the guys I shoot do the 1 hour, because I have 3 different sessions, and most of them will go with that one. Every now and then I'll have a mom who insists upon the other one, the next one up, which is 2 hours, only really because I include a family session with that too. And so it's an excuse for her to force him into getting family shots as well. Right. So every now and then I'll have one that does that, but most of them do. And I think that we can definitely use that to our advantage. Like you said, I mean, I love being efficient, and if I can get everything I need to do in an hour and I don't need to like create that whole other experience for like I do with my girls, hey, that works for me. It's a really good business model. And that's a really good point too, that you brought up about we may have to be looking at that in general as we go forward. We're not really sure, obviously, what that's going to look like. But it's a big possibility, even for like class of 2020. I know our schools, most schools have said that's it. This is it for the rest of the year. So we're looking at hopefully late June and July being able to squeeze in the things that we didn't get in. And we're going to have to move. So it's a skill that you can start honing.
I think so. Get this one kiddo per day. We're going to be like, I am finishing with you at this location and I am starting with this location. We're going to be really efficient. But that's exactly that's most of my senior guys are looking for. One other thing I thought of when you were talking to is like wardrobe. I think that's another big difference between like my guy clients that come in versus my girls. Most of them want suggestions for what to wear, and most of them are incredibly open to what they should do. So I do still do a consultation with the guys in person, primarily for that reason. If I tell them to put on a suit, they will do it. If their mom tells them to put on a suit, they absolutely will not. If again, if mom says to dress up, you're going to get an eye roll, and you're going to get Adidas pants and a t-shirt that come out of a drawer. But if Miss Jen says, look at this guy on my blog, take a look at this, I know that you know him. Yeah. Because, you guys go to your school and he's a good friend and you guys play hoops together. And would you ever picture him wearing something like that? And then they're scrolling through and they're like, oh, yeah, I can see that. So, that's just kind of us being the professionals and taking the lead. I know that they're going to be a lot happier with how they look if they look nice. They need a lot more encouragement and a lot more suggestions as to how to get to that step from what they normally
100% agree. 100% agree. And I don't do consults before, but I will I prep them. I still prep them before. So it's the same kind of thing. So even if you don't do that's a great, obviously if you do consults, it's a great opportunity for you to sit down and show them all these things. And yeah, highly suggest you do that. But you can still do it too if you're not up and running for that, or if, you just want to do more digital stuff like I do beforehand. Same kind of thing, right? It's all about prepping them and showing them, because I always show them, like you were mentioning before. Oh, sorry, knocking my table around. Showing them, look how these pants fit. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good thing for pants to fit you properly. And it's funny because my daughter always teases me. She's like, okay, if you were one of the Queer Eye characters, you would totally be tan. And I was like, yeah, I totally would, because I'm always telling my husband, like, your clothes need to fit better. They need to fit. You're a tall, thin man. You need to have, like, and I kind of do the same thing with my guys. And so even if I show up and the mom, because usually I've prepped them enough and they've got stuff there for me to look at so that I can, make it happen while we're there about to shoot, make it efficient for them. But they've got options. And I'll go through, and same kind of thing. Like, the mom's like, I really want him to wear this, but he's not going to. And I'm like, oh, you're totally wearing this. I'm sorry. But, like, did you see the picture? And they will do it. So I think that's probably part of the thing that a lot of photographers, especially newer photographers, leading with that confidence, like leading with that, look, you're going to like these images better. They're going to look good. Trust me, like leading, with that confidence. And I think a lot of people are very timid about it. And they're just kind of like, I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. Right. So I get it, but prepping them ahead of time. And the guys definitely need help with wardrobe. I mean, even if they have a really good sense of it, it's still really important for us to kind of step in as professionals. Right. And let them know it's going to look good in like 10 years.
I had a 2 years ago. I mean, he is just a ball.
Oh, hang on. Pause.
Again.
Zoom is not my friend. Okay. You're back. Yes.
He was a fast down ball of light. He was just adorable. But he was a shorter kid, and kind of a smaller kid, but loved to, dress nice. And so mom gave him a credit card and said, Riley, go shopping. And he picked out his clothes and he came to his session, and everything he was trying on was like 3 sizes too big for him. And his mom's like, Riley, did you buy anything that fit? And he's like, I just wanted to look bigger. He's like, don't I look bigger? I mean, just a sweetheart. And I went into my car and I found the whole collection of hair ties that was on my gear shift in my car. No joke.
Yes.
We pulled a mannequin trick from the stores and actually like brought the shirt in, and he had just a line of hair ties holding everything back. It worked. But it just, it just reminded me that it's not just wear this, but make sure that it fits. Saying I tell this to my guys and my girls, but make sure you are accenting the parts of your body that you love, not accenting the parts that you don't.
Yes.
Sometimes athletes, it's like I'll look at athletes and I'll think, oh my gosh, your arms look amazing, or your legs look amazing. I have a soccer player. My son's a soccer player. I photograph a lot of soccer kids. Their legs are just like amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't love to show them off because they're almost kind of not loving how that looks about them. So that's another just important thing too. Make sure it fits, make sure that you are showing what you want to show, and put a little extra work into what is going to get
done. And then another thing before we wrap up too, how do you prep them? I know, because I know I'm watching the comments and I don't see too many questions or anything like that, but I know some people will have this question. Prepping them as far as grooming, right? So like, how do you make sure they don't show up, with a whole situation happening with either facial hair or whatever? Like, what's your process for that?
Yeah, well, I do address it. Again, so either however you prep your client, whether that's kind of some digital resources or whether that's an in-person consultation. But I kind of just start, I go through the face actually. I've got like 5 points. I talk about the haircut, and it goes down to the eyebrows, and it goes down to the facial hair. And you kind of just keep going down. But in between one is begging my kids to stay out of the sun 2 weeks before their shoot, especially baseball players in the summertime.
Yes.
Really raccoon lines, and so I do kind of harp on the sunscreen. So that's one point. Haircuts, I generally ask that they not be done within 2 weeks of the shoot. That's my personal opinion. And a lot of guys too have a little bit longer hair now, but you don't want a kid getting a haircut at 2 and showing up to you at 5, and maybe that haircut didn't go well. And so I usually recommend and kind of getting that knocked out 2 weeks ahead of time. I do address the eyebrows. I know that's a personal choice. I have kind of a funny little script that I use with them that just kind of jokes about how you would want that to look. And then I've got on my computer, I've got a zoomed in close up of kind of what works for that and what doesn't. The fourth point, so I said sunscreen, staying out of the sun, hair, eyebrows. That fourth point is do not let any female in your family tell you that you need concealer. Didn't have to say it, but at least once or twice a year, I have somebody that shows up with sister who is loving makeup, and that there was just a little touch up that needed to happen.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of classic. I do retouch all my photos, and so I tell them that I was like, if you have a breakout, it is far easier for me to just go ahead and kind of like touch that up for you, like here, versus having maybe as your sister's tone or shade of her.
Yeah, that's the thing. And people ask me that too a lot because, I include hair and makeup with all my sessions. And so even with the guys Jamie will come, it's not really there for a lot. Like she's there for like little tiny things if we need, a little bit of things and some hair, usually some hair gel, or whatever. But I'll tell him that too. Like, I'm like, if she has to do anything, it is going to be in your color. And she's a professional who knows how I shoot. It's very different than your mom throwing on her makeup for you. You know what I mean?
That's funny. That is my dad FaceTiming me.
Aw.
That's adorable. We're supposed to be checking in on our people.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah, I know. He's just adorable. But yeah, no,
Oh, you froze. Hold on.
It's just like you've got your hair, you got froze again. Oh, Dad.
Maybe it's
sorry,
important.
guys. No, it's totally not. But I FaceTimed him last night when he was, and he's just FaceTiming me back.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So
you said yeah. But yeah, no. And then that very, very last one is just the facial hair. And I don't have, oh my gosh, that is so personal. I am not. I think you need to shave. There's, some kids that can kind of just have that real, just kind of like rough, kind of shadowy look, and it looks really good on them. I just open up the conversation and I make sure that both parents and my senior are in agreement with how that's going to look. I say you want it to be just a real natural reflection of you, however that is, that make the decision ahead of time and just kind of approach it from there. But it's not anything I want to, clean shaven. I think that's just super personal.
I agree. Yeah, no, but at least, like you said, opening up that conversation and having the conversation is really, really important just in general, because all that work that you do ahead of time will pay off later. And I think that with guys, sometimes we get a little, like I said, like, not intimidated, but we don't want them to feel uncomfortable, I think. And so what I really would love photographers to hear, I think the most, is that they really do want the help, because every time that I've offered it, they've been super grateful. And I know that you had said the same. So
yeah, absolutely. And there's been a huge change too. Like we talked at the beginning of this call about how much they actually really did care about their images. I think they care about the entire process.
Yeah.
My selection appointments, I have almost 100% attendance from my senior guys there with their parents.
That's awesome.
Not the case 5 or 6 years ago. I really kind of felt like at that point I was shooting primarily for the parents, to preserve that memory. It just goes to show how much they really do care. They want to come in, they want to make those decisions, they want to have input in it, and it's because they've had input in the entire process. I really feel
for sure. For sure. Yeah. So what would you say real quick before we hop off? What would you tell a photographer if they're like, okay, I want to start shooting guys? I know we talked a lot about, you know, some really good tips. But if they want to start marketing to them, you know, I think that we had talked about this a little bit before. Would you, what just in general, what kind of advice would you give just in general?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I would say you are primarily marketing to the parent of the senior guy. I think that with our senior girls, we definitely are marketing to the girl probably a little bit more heavily than we are to the parent. I think it's the
Yeah.
complete opposite. And so you want to target your marketing efforts more towards the parents. And so, yes, Instagram, we're all starting to get on TikTok, all those kinds of places where you're going to find your seniors. You're
Yeah.
going to find your senior parents on Facebook
Yeah.
and other mediums. And so kind of targeting your efforts there with the guys equally as much as you are in kind of those social circles that maybe are only the ones that the kids are on. You got to flip over to the ones that the parents are on too. That's
Yeah.
kind of a great place to start. Obviously, as we all know, so much of it is word of mouth. And so, you know, start, if you are somebody that utilizes a referral program, rework that a little bit to where it's parent sending parent your way. And just kind of those things that we've kind of just have learned that have worked really well over the years. And also just, we said this at the beginning, but just put out what you want to attract. If you don't have any senior guys coming your way from a paid perspective, offer a free session or two, three.
Yeah.
You know, target the kind of you know, senior guy that you want to highlight, whether that are if you're
Exactly.
the athletes. Maybe you're targeting I don't know, just kind of like the musical kids, the kids that have, you know, big, huge personalities. They're involved in show choir, they're involved in theater, and they have just, you know, a lot of friends in their community. Just decide who that targets. No different than like everything we do to decide what our target
Yes,
is.
exactly.
Your target guy is, and offer a free session, offer a free mini session here or there, just so that you can kind of build up a small repertoire of images that you can start to put out there, because I really do feel like you attract what you put out. So if you can combine your marketing efforts with really just showing what you want to shoot and knowing that you really, really need to be reaching out to the parents to market that senior guy genre, I think even more than the kid themselves.
Yep. That's good advice. Awesome. So, okay, I guess I'm gonna look in the comments real fast and make sure I didn't like skip over somebody's question. It's really hard to see them all live because of the way it works. So I don't see any, but Jen's gonna, you know, she'll stick around in the comments, and if you guys have any questions for her, I'm sure she'll be happy to answer them. So yeah, just tag her or something. And she'll, and yes, somebody did ask if it was going to replay, and yeah, it'll replay inside the group, so you should be able to just find it with all the other videos here. But anyway, well, thank you for coming on. It was super fun.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I know it was really helpful for people, so I really appreciate it.
Great.
And have a good weekend in your house.
Thank you. You guys as well. Take care.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye.